This is a table of the RDIs, or what I call the RDAs, for the micronutrients, our vitamins and minerals. While I am not asking you to memorize this information, I certainly don't know it all without looking at a table. What I'm asking you to look at are the units: milligrams, micrograms, what are called international units. What I want you to get a sense of is that these units are much smaller than the recommendations for the proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. In a few minutes, I'll show you that the minimum recommendation for carbohydrates is 130 grams per day, or 130,000 milligrams. If we look at vitamin C is 60 milligrams. That's 60 milligrams for vitamin C compared to 130,000 milligrams of carbohydrate. That's a huge difference. That doesn't mean that vitamin C is not important compared to carbohydrates. It just means that you need a lot less of it in order for the vitamin C to meet the needs of our body and for the functions of vitamin C. Nutrient density is something that folks who may be watching their weight are interested in. And this is the nutrients found per calorie. So what you're looking at are two different 500 calorie, I hesitate to call them both meals, but on the left we have your toast, your eggs, let's call it a turkey sausage, fruit, cereal, all for 500 calories. And on the right we have two chocolate sprinkled donuts and a cup of coffee. I like that they have coffee in both meals. For breakfast, these are about equal number of calories, but what's significantly different are the amount of nutrients found in each meal. I believe you can determine which one is more dense in nutrients. This is looking at a 500 calorie meal. If we look at 100 calories of liquid, let's just compare 1% milk, whole milk, and a cola beverage, since we don't want to have any brand names mentioned. We have 100 calories of each of these beverages. You can see 1% milk, whole milk, and cola. Does this mean you should never have cola? No, I would never tell you never to drink a cola beverage. But if you're watching your calories or you're concerned about your nutrient intake, which of course I know all of you are, then on the whole, your choices should be more towards nutrient dense. When I say on the whole, and we'll talk about this more during the semester, I'm not saying every day, although that's certainly a good recommendation, but on the average. Now, for those of you who are looking at this part of the food label for something that you like to eat and you're going to include in your diet project, and you can't find that number, let's talk about how to make the calculations. If we look down here and see that this particular food, I guess it's a cereal, contains 25% of the recommendation of vitamin C. What does that mean? How many milligrams of vitamin C are found in one serving of this food? Well, we know from a previous slide that the daily recommendations for vitamin C are 60 milligrams. So if we take 25% of that, we find that in one serving of this cereal, you get 15 milligrams of vitamin C. That's 15 milligrams per serving, and that can be helpful when you're figuring out information for your diet project. The ingredient list, also found on the food labels, the ingredients are listed in descending order of predominance by weight, not importance of the food or the ingredient, but by weight. So in this particular food, and I think this must still be the cereal, the heaviest ingredient, or the one that can be found in the highest amount, are whole oats. Then we have corn, flour, sugar, different types of sugars, the ever-present high fructose corn syrup, coconut oil, and down here we have the vitamins and the minerals. And it makes sense that vitamins and minerals would be found in the smallest amount because, as we said previously, it's not that they're not important, but we don't need as much of them in order for these nutrients, these vitamins and minerals, to perform the necessary functions in our body. Some of the terms that are allowed to be on food labels, something can be listed as free, like cholesterol free or fat free, if it has negligible amounts per serving. Now, one thing I want to talk to you about is this is trans fatty acids per serving. A product is allowed to say that it is trans-free if it contains less than 0.5 grams of trans fatty acids per serving. Now suppose this food label said it contained partially hydrogenated coconut oil. Those words themselves, partially hydrogenated, mean that the product contains trans fatty acid, because the process of partial hydrogenation results in the formation of these fatty acids. However, if one serving of that product contains less than 0.5 grams, which means it could contain 0.49 grams, it may be, by law, allowed to list it as trans-free. Products can also use the terms reduced or less, light or LITE. This is my favorite because it can be lighter in color or texture compared to the original product and still be allowed to be listed as light. So I think, ladies and gentlemen, that if your Bud Light was listed as Bud LITE, you'd want to look at the calories because it might simply be lighter in color. Here's some other terms which will be helpful for you when you're sitting around having drinks with your friends and talking about what you learned in nutrition this week. What I do want you to just remember is that when we talk about 3.5-ounce servings, particularly pertaining to meat, cheese, animal products, we're usually referring to 100 grams of a serving. The food package labels use nutrient panels, the facts panels that contain the dietary recommendations, the latest recommendations. To determine whether a food is high in fat, you calculate the percent calories from fat. Nutrient density refers to the amount of nutrients per calorie. Ingredients are listed in descending order by predominance of weight or volume, and there are specific definitions of terms that can be used on food labels.